Final Fantasy VII is one of the most iconic games of all time with some of the most recognizable characters in gaming. We've got Cloud, Tifa, Barret, Sephiroth, and of course, Zack. Crisis Core extends the beloved story of Final Fantasy VII as a prequel told through Zack as the main character and provides the backstory to Cloud. I decided to platinum the remake Crisis Core Reunion with a huge twist to make things a little harder, and by a little I mean a lot. More details on that soon. We have on our hands one of the most powerful but saddest stories in gaming, with doomed characters, insane summon fights, and the origin of one of the most iconic scenes in gaming, period. Our plan for the platinum includes playing the entire game on hard mode, earning every missable trophy along the way, which is basically all of them, and finally the cleanup and optional boss at the end, which isn't really optional at all for the platinum. I seriously underestimated that last step, by the way. You'll see. One shot. We start off by jumping right into a battle and learning the ropes of the action RPG style gameplay. This is more similar to the battle system of Final Fantasy VII Remake as opposed to turn-based combat style. Winning this battle earns us our first trophy. Oh yeah! Then we get tossed into what I consider a mini boss because look at this thing. This fight introduces Crisis Core's key combat change, which is the DMW. Similar to a slot machine, every roll is completely RNG, and if it lands on the same character 3 times, like Sephiroth here, Zack gets to use a limit break, which is a special ability if you're not familiar with Final Fantasy. Oh, and that earns us a second trophy for using a limit for the first time. Immediately after that fight, we're confronted with our worst nightmare.
What is this?
But it turns out it was just a training simulation, and that brings the prologue to a close. In Chapter 1, we learn that Zack is a member of Soldier, which is kind of like a military task force similar to something like the Navy SEALs. We also learn about the collectibles in this game, which are just emails that the various characters send to Zack throughout the missions. And speaking of missions, these are the side quests in this game. There's 300 total, and we have to complete every single one in increasing difficulty for a few trophies. For now, we're off on our first mission. From here on out, at the end of each chapter, I'm going to spin the wheel and add a new restriction to make things harder. Zack and his mentor Angeal are assigned to investigate an enemy base where another Soldier first class member named Genesis went missing. This enemy fortress is where the first missable trophy is. It's pretty simple. The icons in the upper left corner here represent optional enemy battles in the fortress, and we simply need to take them all out. There's no bosses or anything, just regular optional enemies that we have no problem dealing with. After this, we find no trace of Genesis, and instead we get ambushed by 2 big bozos who serve as a boss fight. I'm not even gonna try to say their names. The fight is pretty simple. They move pretty slow, we dodge their attacks easily, and dish out our own attacks whenever we find an opening. And then after this fight, we get our trophy for infiltrating the base successfully. Hero of the Wutai War. This is the missable trophy I was talking about.
Oh, Sephiroth is waiting.
Before we can follow Angeal though, something unexpected happens. Oh, I know what that means.
A summon? Who called it out?
So summons are a staple in the Final Fantasy franchise. Ifrit here is the signature fire summon if you couldn't already tell. And since we're on hard mode, he has a ton of health, but he's weak to ice. So I just kept using ice attacks to whittle his health bar down. Did I mention that Sephiroth is a good guy and he's in Soldier?
Angeal wouldn't betray us. Never!
Oh, and it turns out our mentor, Angeal, who we just met, deserted Soldier in the last 5 minutes or so, and it's Sephiroth who breaks the news to Zack. Pretty crazy turn of events if you ask me, and that concludes Chapter 1. He wouldn't betray us, Chapter 1 completed. Which brings us to our first challenge. Okay, so the time has come, we're in a new chapter. Let's spin the wheel and see what we get. So this is the wheel of challenges. Whatever this lands on is what I'm going to do. An example of a challenge is no accessories at all, no items, or even no cure materia allowed for the entire chapter. The suspense. This can make it really tough. I'm already playing on hard mode. No cure for the entirety of chapter 2. This last one chapter. For the entirety of chapter 2, I cannot use cure. We begin chapter 2 by collecting emails and completing a few of the side missions. The rewards from these missions available to us earns us a missable trophy. Regen. Nice! Then we continue the story by visiting Angeal's hometown, Banora. We chop it up with Mama Angeal and find something really familiar. Man, wouldn't it be cool if I can just use this sword? Wouldn't that be cool? It turns out we find Genesis and Angeal in town. They did in fact betray Soldier, and since we're the good guys, we try to run back to Angeal's house to protect Mama Dukes. But along the way, we play a minigame because we have time to kill, right? This game loves to throw random minigames at you, by the way, for missable trophies. For this one, we have to time the X button to slice some rockets, and after we get 10 perfectly, we earn a trophy. Slicing Soldier. Okay, good, because that's technically a missable trophy, so I had to close app and come back and get that right now, or else I'd miss it. For some reason, we also have to loot the village while trying to make it back for another missable trophy. So I couldn't pick them up before, but now that we're in a time crunch, I can go and pick them up. But I got all 5 of them. I mean, I should be good. There we go, Benora treasures. We're getting all of the items. Let's go. Also, to no one's surprise, Genesis is the one who summoned Ifrit in chapter 1, and this time he summons Bahamut, who looks and sounds way more terrifying. It's Bahamut? Remember how I can't use Cure in this chapter? So far, magic has been like the solution to everything. Yeah, that meant I had to just keep rolling around to dodge attacks and use potions whenever needed, although that only worked until I couldn't dodge a limit break. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Get that down, get that down, get that down. He's almost dead. Please, no. This battle is where I realized how strong magic materia really could be. Bahamut just used Mega Flare on me. This attack is crazy. Like, the animation is crazy. 402, we're good. Boom, let's go. And after the battle, Genesis shows us why he and Angeal left. He's a monster. The trophy for completing chapter 2, We're Not Monsters. There's a lot to unravel in this game. There's a lot left. Okay, it is time again to spin the wheel, so let's do it. I showed a little bit of the screen this time, a little more of the screen, I mean, and it's going to land on no materia slot 4. So whatever I have in slot 4 right now, I'm not going to use it. Thankfully, this challenge won't be too bad, but trust me, it gets real bad real soon. And in this chapter, Zack gets promoted to Soldier First Class, putting him in the same rank as Sephiroth. This also now unlocks Materia Fusion, which allows us to combine 2 materia or abilities into a new one. It earns us a trophy for now, but keep in mind, Materia Fusion, this is what allows us to get really powerful later in the game. Okay, I didn't know I was gonna get a trophy for that, but we just got a new materia and a trophy. Let's go. We have no time to celebrate though, as the building is under attack by Genesis's troops. We travel around the building saving civilians from these machine monsters who happen to be weak to thunder magic. After taking them all out, Sephiroth has a lead on where his friends Genesis and Angeal might be. Oh yeah, these 3 were best buds, by the way. And his hunch was right, because we find Genesis protecting this guy named Hollander.
You won't take Hollander.
Who tries to run away.
Zack, go.
Yeah.
For some reason, an out-of-shape scientist is able to outrun Zack for a little while until we run into an old friend. He shows us that he's a monster now too and wants revenge as well.
I've become a monster. A monster's objective is usually world domination or revenge.
We then get hit with the uppercut of a lifetime because Zack refuses to fight his friend and former mentor in Angeal, which causes him to fall through the floor into the slums below the city, concluding this chapter. Angels dream of one thing. Okay, so it's time to spin the wheel again. I updated the wheel so everything on there will last for 2 chapters, meaning when we spin again at the end of this chapter, we will have 2 consecutive challenges overlapping at the same time, so it should get pretty hard here. I honestly don't know what I want it to land on, but it lands on 2 materia slots, so I just unlocked 2 more and I can still only use 4 because 2 of them are locked out. So Zack wakes up to who he can only believe is an angel, and of course fans of Final Fantasy VII know her as Aerith.
An angel?
The two hit it off and hang out in the slums for a little while, helping out the good people down here and winning over their approval, as well as Aerith's affection.
You're amazing. You're so strong.
Then Zack gets called back to work, we fight more machinery on the way back, and we guess we're taking too long, so we get an assist from our old friend. You know, the guy who just poured his heart and soul into the uppercut of Oblivion. Yeah, Angel seriously can't make up his mind, I guess. Back in the tower, we're tasked with defending another scientist named Hojo, who is being targeted by Genesis. We play another minigame where our goal is to take out some experiments that escape their cages, then loot said cages all within 3 minutes. I haven't been showing every minigame so far, but like I said, they're all just as random as this one. We learned that Genesis is going crazy because his body is degrading, and we also learned that Hojo likes to insult basically everyone. Of course, Genesis escapes and, you guessed it, uses another summon to aid his escape. Oh, brother. My strategy for this fight was much like the others, to be honest. Use magic from a distance and heal whenever necessary. I'm on hard mode, okay, so don't judge me. But that didn't work out as planned. That did 1100! I didn't really change anything up though, just restarted the fight for round 2. And it was going better this time until this thing decided to use his limit. Bro, it's still at 75. I just really? These summons are absolutely trying their best to wipe Zack off the face of the planet. That does 2200, like, I don't know how much Genesis is paying them, but I promise I can do better. After a few more attempts, this happened. All right, this time I need to knock him down below 75, maybe one more below 50. There we go. I should be able to live this now. Basically, as long as I damaged him enough while he was charging up his limit, I was able to survive, heal up, and then continue using my magic. 794, much more manageable. A little bit of rinse and repeat, and then perfect. Boom! Let's go. Took a couple tries. Definitely the hardest boss so far, but we did it. Of course, that completes the chapter. All right, start of a new chapter. We know what that means. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel, and we get no green materia. All right, now this one just messed me up.
Emotional damage.
So green materia is magic, and as you guys have clearly seen so far, that is all I use to fight every enemy. So we're gonna switch from green to anything else basically for 2 chapters, and we're still limited to 4 slots only. Okay, so this is what we're rocking with. I don't know if it's good or not. I might mess around with more materia fusion, but up next we of course begin with a mini game. We have to out squat a couple opponents. It's a pretty simple timing challenge. You press X at the right time and Zack continues to squat. After beating 4 opponents, we earn our trophy. We get what we wanted. Moving on with our mission, we're off to a snowy terrain, where we make friends with another familiar face here who's just an infantryman and actually not a part of Soldier.
Me and
That music is playing.
Cloud. Me and Cloud here are both backwater experts. Oh yeah.
It turns out both Cloud and Zack are country boys, so naturally they become friends. We find an abandoned warehouse where Genesis is holding up, and I don't know about you guys, but it feels like it's been too long without a minigame. This time we have to infiltrate the base without being seen. The AI here are pretty bad, and honestly I should have been caught, but we make it to the end and get our trophy. I might have gotten the trophy. I did. Okay, well, that wasn't developed in the best manner, but we'll take the trophy, Master Infiltrator. We find Genesis threatening Hollander here and actually face off with Genesis once and for all. And if you were waiting for me to really struggle because of the twist I added, well, you're in for a treat because without the use of magic, this battle was a struggle. We actually get to fight him. I died. Oh, okay. Well, I was doing no damage. I was doing no damage. Oh, this is gonna be tough. Died again. Bro, he was regenerating. That's not fair. And died some more. Bro, if I don't dodge those, that gets me every time. What is that? My third, fourth death? I don't even know. Before being a little more disciplined with my dodges, I was dealing damage slowly, and every death was kinda just me learning the boss fight a little more. I didn't really change up equipment at all, which seems like the wrong decision in hindsight, but eventually I was able to take Genesis down. Yo, we are so close. So close. Come on. Let's go!
Conflict resolved.
Hardest boss so far, easily. We watch Genesis fall to his death, and that ends the chapter. Oh wait, it doesn't end the chapter. To no one's surprise, Angel is here too, because apparently he's always around in this game. And we find out he was born out of an experiment from Hollander, which makes him spiral into being a real monster once and for all.
Stop it!
This fight was going rather swimmingly, if I do say so myself. Not using magic was hurting me, but I was chipping away at his health until I learned Angel could poop lightning and one-shot me. So I jumped back into it and finally decided to use my noggin. Oh my goodness. You see, there's this thing called a Phoenix Down in Final Fantasy games that revives you if you die. I began using these expeditiously. Bro, what? Oh, wait. I used my Phoenix Down. We're good. I'm using another one immediately. Just like other bosses, Angio had limit breaks that don't miss, and these would also one-shot me. Oh, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die, 75%, I'm gonna die. Oh, I'm gonna die. 38, 34, but I had a Phoenix Down, but that was my last one. You can use multiple Phoenix Downs in a single fight until you run out, by the way, but still that wasn't enough to save me. No, he was so close. Jumping back into it again, I made sure I always had a revive going just in case. And the caveat here is I couldn't buy these in shops. I could only find them out in chests, which meant I had to be strategic with when I used them. After a couple more attacks and a few more minutes passing by, I finally felled my mentor. Let's go! And in his dying moments, Angel looks out for us one final time.
Zack, you have my thanks. This is for you.
He entrusts his Buster Sword to Zack, and that closes out the chapter. Alright, it's time to spin the wheel. See what we get. I can use 6 materia again. Bruh. I take it back, I can use 5 materia again. So as a recap, I can use 5 slots, no magic still for the remaining chapter. This upcoming chapter is pretty short. Zack goes on vacation because of everything he just went through with Angel, except his vacation is cut short from Genesis's troops. This surprises everyone because Genesis is expected to be dead right now. Yo, this umbrella is surprisingly strong. We then get called to a nearby city that's under an invasion. And it turns out this is where Hollander was being held. This guy continues to do what he does best, which is run away. We are tasked with chasing him down, including taking down some more machinery along the way, as well as a pretty underwhelming boss compared to who we just fought. Finally catching up to Hollander, we witness him being taken away by another Genesis copy, and this prompts a fittingly named trophy to pop. We spin the wheel again, and this time it lands on not being able to use purple materia, which are stat boosting materia. Thankfully, I can use magic again, except this chapter doesn't really have much combat. We spend most of our time with Aerith, collecting various parts to build a few flower wagons, which earns us a trophy. So that's our last trophy for the flower wagon, and the last time Zack gets to see Aerith. We then meet up with Sephiroth, Cloud, and a few other troops to close out the chapter. No yellow materia for the rest of the game. Okay. Interesting. This fateful mission brings us to Nibelheim, which is where Cloud is from. Cloud, of course, grew up in the same town as Tifa, who's a tour guide for the nearby Mako reactor. Mako is kind of like nuclear energy that's used to power cities as well as people. In fact, members of Soldier, including Zack, are infused with Mako to make them stronger. So in this town, we get to explore and complete some side quests. We take a photo to commemorate the occasion. Tifa then guides us up to the Mako reactor.
tear.
And that's where we find Jenova. Now, Sephiroth never knew his mother, but he was told that his mother was Jenova. At this point, we learn from Genesis, who is actually alive, that Jenova cells were used to create all of the so-called monsters, including Genesis, Angeal, and Sephiroth himself, with Sephiroth being the only one who was perfect and whose cells could not degrade. This kind of causes Sephiroth to go through a midlife crisis, and we leave him alone and go back to town. Cloud hides his past, and Zack kind of blows off Aerith for work, not knowing what's about to happen.
Listen, now's not the best time. I'll call you later.
Keep talking to her. Sephiroth has been cooped up in the basement of a nearby manor, so we go to meet up with him, you know, trying to be good friends and all. Along the way, we find another familiar friend fast asleep, and we leave him be because it's not his time to help us yet.
I should probably leave him alone.
We finally catch up with Sephiroth, who's slowly going mad researching about his origins. And finally, after learning the truth, Sephiroth reaches his breaking point, leading to this scene right here. After burning down the town, we chase Sephiroth back up to the reactor where Jenova is kept and confront him. Everyone in this game has been lied to about their origins, and Sephiroth has had enough and turns his back on everyone. Zack, being the hero he is, confronts Sephiroth, leading us to this epic battle. I really began to feel the difficulty of hard mode in this fight. I was barely putting out high damage, and in return, Sephiroth was able to one-shot me with his abilities. 6,000? That did 6,000? This happened over and over. Remember how I mentioned Materia Fusion was very powerful? Alright, so I found a way to use Materia Fusion to get my Vitality up to 115 and my total HP up to 4,300. Creating new materia was the only way I could get past this fight. So now that I could finally take a hit, I was able to chip away at his insane amount of health. I was just utilizing fire magic and keeping my distance from the Psycho. Come on, come on, come on, right there. Oh, now I get a summon? We're right there, finally, let's go. He actually has a second phase where we're on a time limit. We have to defeat him before he drives us off the edge, which meant I had to deal more damage. I'm not gonna lie, this took a while, so we'll skip to when I finally figured it out. I changed up my equipment so that my magic was much stronger, and well, I guess I didn't really change much up because I just continue using fire anyways, but it works, okay? We get past him and clash swords before being knocked down. An unsuspecting hero steps up to the plate to take on the one-winged angel, which leads to another epic scene that fans should be familiar with.
No. Impossible.
Cloud manages to knock Sephiroth down, who is never to be seen again. At this point, Cloud and Zack are pretty weak, and remember Professor Hojo from earlier who Zack protected? Well, he decides he's gonna turn Zack and Cloud into test subjects, and that brings this chapter to a close. We spin the wheel one last time, and I didn't know this, but this challenge was easily the hardest one, kinda fitting for the end of the game. No accessories for the remainder of the game. No yellow materia. After some time passes, Zack breaks free from the experimentation, and Cloud is suffering from Mako poisoning because his body isn't familiar with it, but Zack makes sure he takes care of his friend. All Zack could think of right now is going to visit Aerith, so he sets out on a mission for he and Cloud to make it back to Midgar. Along the way, we run into Genesis and Hollander, who decided to experiment on himself, and now his body is degrading too. He wants to use Cloud's cells to cure himself, which in theory would save his body, but Zack isn't gonna let these lunatics near his friend because all they've been is wrong so far. After taking Hollander out in a pretty boring fight, we chase after Genesis for one last battle. But before we do so, I took care of all the side missions and content first. This sounds a lot easier said than done, but remember there are 300 missions in this game, each one getting progressively harder. In fact, this step alone took me over 30 hours. I was at 13 hours when I got to this point and 45 hours when I was finally done. Along the way, we earned several trophies for completing every mission. We unlocked every summon, like this guy right here known as Cactuar, or this guy known as Tonberry. After earning that trophy, we had to complete the DMW, which as a reminder is the RNG factor of this game and the major reason why it took over 30 hours to complete the step. To do this, we had to witness every memory of our friends during battle. The best way to do it was to just leave a battle running overnight, which is what I did, and it still took about 15 hours to witness them all. Then I had to deal the max damage of 99,999 in one hit for another trophy. And finally, it was time to collect all pieces of Genji gear, which is some of the best equipment in the game. The first piece was simply in a chest during a mission. The next piece was actually earned from completing the DMW. The third piece is found by encountering a rare enemy who wanted to use specific attacks on him. The last attack being Octaslash, which is RNG and only comes from the DMW if it lands on Sephiroth. Oh! I got it! Let's go! It's gonna give me the next piece. And finally, the last piece is bought for 1 million gil. Once this cleanup is done, we confront Genesis once and for all, who in standard Final Fantasy fashion turns himself into a giant monster. Luckily for us, the 30 hours of cleanup I just did made us pretty strong, so this was no sweat. If you think this is lackluster or anticlimactic, don't worry, there's something else coming. To wrap up the main story, we take Genesis's body up to the surface to rest because we're the good guys. This is when we get a letter from Aerith saying that she's been sending letters to Zack for 4 years.
It's already been 4 years now. This is the 89th letter that I've sent to you.
And this one right here would be the last one because she sent 88 already and cannot wait anymore.
4 years? What do you mean, final?
Realizing now that he and Cloud were captive for 4 years before breaking out, he's now more determined than ever to get back to Aerith in Midgar. He sets out with Cloud, even hitchhiking for a while before the military finally catches up with them. They are not too happy that their prize experiments are just walking away, and they show up with seemingly endless numbers. Zack takes on the impossible and starts fighting his way through all these enemies. Memories of his friends come to mind through the DMW as they flash white, symbolizing that Zack's memory of them is fading away. We can try our best to fight the inevitable here, but one by one, Zack continues to forget his friends until there's only one remaining.
A monster's objective.
I really like
join
that
my
sword.
battle.
Nothing else out
Zack,
there. Hold on.
you have my thanks.
Hello?
With Aerith being the last person Zack can think of and remember, he fights to the death until he cannot keep going, and even his memory of her fades away too. Cloud finally wakes up from his Mako poisoning and makes his way over to be there with his friend in his dying moments, who gave his life to protect him. And much like his mentor before him, it's in these moments that he trusts the Buster Sword to Cloud to live on in his memory.
They're yours now.
And that completes every chapter of the game, but there's still one last mission to tackle. This is Minerva, and she is the strongest boss in the game. As you'll see from these next few clips, I was getting one shot over and over. Kinda like earlier bosses I know, except this time it was different. No matter what I tried, all her different attacks would one shot me. 88,000? Bro, 100,000 damage, the bar doesn't even move. One shot. She uses a different ability to kill me every time. How does one dodge that? I actually had to resort to looking up a guide to figure out a new setup to take her on, and yes, this required accessories, mainly because this fight is literally impossible without them. Oh my goodness, with this new setup, I am not one hit. I'm not one hit. Let's go. This is crazy. I'm also regenerating HP because of my new equipment. With this new setup, I was able to dish out 99,999 damage with every hit, and I would not get one shot by Minerva. I also made sure I had a trusty Phoenix down up at all times and dealt damage while keeping an eye on my health to heal up whenever necessary. Minerva has 10 million health, so it took 100 attacks of 100,000 damage to finally take her down. Right there. Not mess this up. You just gotta focus. Heal up when necessary. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. Divine rule broken. She shatters. Let's go. That's what I like to see. Man. Akei's soul obtained. Mission completionist. Let's go. My living legacy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. It's a lot of fun. Make sure to click on the screen here to catch another video just like this one where I earned another platinum trophy in another great game with another great story. It's a lot of greats. Sorry about that.